Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. I'm going to try to explain this clearly and thoroughly. This is part 2 of the 200 amp panel upgrade. So today, it's basically worked on the ground wire, worked on the feeds, and I worked on the 100 amp 3 conductor number 3 that's going to backfeed the existing panel. And we'll go over a few things. So let's start with the first one, which is the ground. Now you're allowed a number 6 bare, but I happen to get a number 3, which is thicker than a number 6. So this is a pretty thick ground wire. It's slightly oversized, but that's quite all right. And I've got it going into there, which is on the neutral side. Then I got it feeding all the way across on the underside. You know, I could have went along here. That maybe would have been easier, but I thought, why don't we get it out of sight so that no one's tugging on it or wrenching on it. I ran it all the way across there, and I've got it coiled up here for now. There's quite a bit here. Okay, you can see it there. And what we're gonna do with that is outside. Got it right here. I'm going to dig a hole 2 feet down, and we're going to put a grounding plate right there. And what I might even do, I need to write this down, is I'll run a little conduit and fasten it to this here, so it's just not exposed like this. But for now, I'm going to pull this back out, and I'll do that on my next visit. So that's all ready to go. Quick look at this. Here I need to put mastic putty, a sort of electrical putty, and also on this side I have to put an electrical putty to keep the moisture out, any sort of condensation. And I believe I need to drill a little 1/4 inch hole in here. But I'm gonna leave that for the inspector to tell me, and I'll be ready for it. Now, next was my 3/0 copper feeds. So I needed, my mastic pole is 10 feet, plus all of this, I calculated 20 feet of one black 3/0, 20 feet of another black 3/0, and 20 feet of number 3 copper, also conductor. So I ended up getting 40 feet of 3/0, cut it in half, and 20 feet of number 3. But what I did first was, I did from the underside of the meter base to here. Okay, no slack, no excess. I went out there, started from here first. Okay, I did the bottom side of these, one at a time, fed them in, fed them through here, right? And finished that off. This way, any excess wire, I just left it I just left it up there because I need to leave like 30 inches of wire up there. But I wouldn't start from up there and work my way down, right? I make all these cuts precisely, and then my last ones were from here up. And then whatever is excess, I measured for 30 inches, but it ended up being like, you know, 3 foot something, right? Which is fine. Leave the excess up there for hydro to do their connection. Do you know what I mean? All right. Same thing with the ground wire. You start from here, you fish it to over there, and you leave the excess over there. Leave the excess over there, because this stuff is very expensive. So you don't just want to start cutting pieces right off the hop and then you realize, oh, well, I cut it 6 inches too long. Oh, don't worry about it. No, you do need to worry about it. You leave the excess up top because these are all pre-measured and pre-cut and pre-ordered pieces of copper. So, you know, all the measurements were pretty darn close. There's no excess on the floor here. Any excess wire is hanging out of the mast outside. Okay? So that's that. Now I got the 100 amp. This is a 3 conductor, number 3 Romex. Okay? And I ordered 75 feet of it. Which, this is, you know, another situation where I measured it, and I measured it based on this distance, and I allowed for like 8 feet down there and 6 feet overhanging over there. I'll show you where this Romex is going to end up. It's going to end up coming out of there and tying back into here. And I'm planning to put a disconnect here, a new 100 amp disconnect, because you would imagine that if anyone ever has to come and work on this, they have to access that. Well, what if the garage is locked for whatever reason? So we're gonna have an on and off switch right here to service this. And that'll be that. And when the Romex crosses from there to there, I have to protect it with a conduit of sorts. Still working on that. I'm gonna talk to the inspector. I'll just run like a piece of 2-inch PVC conduit just for that section there. Now here's that wire coming along here. Now I nailed these pieces of wood here. These are extra. And what I'm going to do is, it's loose right now. It's loose right now. But once, see there's that there's the old mast over there. Once, my commanding point will be the existing 100 amp panel over there. So once I do that, once I use up the Romex, that'll be my commanding point. Then I'll come along here, I'll fasten it, and then you want to fasten it on top of this wood all the way down, right? That makes sense, doesn't it? Anytime you run any sort of wire, it needs to be supported, right? You can't just have a wire dangling from rafter to rafter or ceiling joist to ceiling joist. Anytime you run wires, even in an attic, they need to be properly secured, not just dangling. So that's what I'm gonna do. The commanding point will be that panel outside there. And once I make the connection there, with the raw end of wire there. I'll fasten it all the way across, because I'm you know, it's not like I have excess of wire here. It's hopefully I have a few more feet of this coming my way, and ideally I'd like to maybe come over and in nicely into there with a new 100 amp breaker. And then that'll be that. So that's the inside work. What else did I do today? Well, outside here, we got that. I was gonna paint that red, but I think galvanized is just fine as well. I siliconed it, and we got that going there. Right. So that's that. Let's have one more look over here. Same thing when I was doing these 3 feeds here. You strip these ends on the ground where you can work nice like a champ. And then I fed the white one in first. Very easy, just fed it in and then just let it come back down, locked it down, and then I fed the blacks. I fed them both at the same time, and then I just fed one in there, locked it down. There was no resistance whatsoever. I found that doing that right there, I find that to be almost the weakest link in the project. Number one, the aluminum casting on that 180 degree 90 elbow thingy up there, the casting on the aluminum is so sharp that you want to take a file to it and deburr it, because it almost felt like it was cutting into the wire. So I did that. And it's a weird 180 bend you got to do up there, but that's the way they do it. It's the way they've always done it. So it's done. That's it. It's done for now. I'm gonna get all this back on, get the cover on outside. I'm gonna take some notes, write a few things down, because I will probably just make my final visit on the shutdown day. The day hydro's gonna come and shut down, and then I have to coordinate with the inspector and hydro. They're 2 different governing bodies, so you gotta line them up. One other thing I should mention, we already talked about these to cap those off. This is a separate piece all on its own. You have to buy it separately, and it's important to put it on. If you don't put it on, imagine what's involved in putting it on later if you miss it. I put one on there. And I put one on there. So yeah. All right, well, where are we at? 14 minutes, almost 15 minutes. Okay guys, well, thanks for watching. I hope you got something out of the video. And there is a part 1 to this, so if you haven't watched it, by all means, go watch it, check it out. And hopefully there'll be a part 3. Take care, everybody.